Alright, so we got to talking in my local Smash Discord server about controller tier lists, potentially, so I figured I'd go ahead and record making mine. And as you can see by the not familiar enough tier here, if you want to call it a tier, most of the controllers in this template, I didn't make this template, as you could probably infer. Um, Most of the controllers in this template I'm just not familiar enough with to uh, rank with reasonable accuracy. You know, I don't have a very educated opinion on any of them. It's not like I haven't touched any of the controllers here that are in that not familiar enough category, but um, you know, I'm just not knowledgeable enough on them to rank them. So that leaves just 6 controllers in this template. So this will be a quick one. I'll just go in order here. So first we have the Switch Joy-Cons. I haven't really played with these, but I've handled them and navigated Smash Ultimate a little bit with them. I was at an event at a middle school, helping run this little gaming event for the students there, with Small Town Gaming, which is the competitive gaming organization I work with. And there was a point where I had to help out on one of the Ultimate setups, and I had to use the Joy-Cons. I probably had to use them a little bit when setting up the setups too, but I have handled them. I haven't really played with them, but I've handled them and had to use them to a degree. And I can tell you, these things do not feel good at all. I mean, my hands aren't huge. I'm not that big of a guy. I'm 5'11". My hands are fairly average size for somebody of that height, I suppose. Maybe a bit on the thicker side, but you know, my hand size is not even that big, and these things are way too small for my hands. I mean, you have to be like, you have to be a very small human to, like, I'm basically a little kid to have these controllers feel reasonably comfortable, I think. And not only that, but I don't own a Switch, but I'm well aware of these Joy-Cons having an issue after a while where the sticks start to drift. Happens all the time, so I'm well aware of that. So this is not a good controller at all. I mean, this is definitely going in C tier, which is generous. I mean, C is the lowest tier here. I didn't go too far down with the tiers because I only got 6 controllers to rank here. So yeah, that the Joy-Cons are bad controllers, dude, if you ask me. I haven't played with them that much, but they're, from what little I have handled them and know about them, they're pretty bad. Now, the Wii U Gamepad, going back a console generation here, I've used the Gamepad quite a bit. Not very much. I've played a lot of Smash 4. That was the first... That was the game that got me into competitive Smash Bros. Tournament play. Started with Smash 4 before I went to Melee primarily. So, I did use the gamepad some upon initially getting my Wii U. And I didn't just play Smash 4 on the Wii U, but that's mainly what I got it for, and that was primarily what I played. Almost all of what I played, but I remember I played 1 or 2 other games, and I probably was using the gamepad for that. Yeah, I think I was. I mean, all things considered, I don't want to think about these controllers for just Smash, you know. This isn't just a tier list for controllers for just Smash, right? So, considering the fact that it has its own screen and its own audio, it's fairly ergonomic. It doesn't feel uncomfortable at all. It's a pretty solid controller, honestly. It's not legal in tournament play because only one person can use it. I believe that's the reason for Smash tournament play. But all things considered, especially for casual play, in various games. I think the gamepad is a good controller. I really do. I'm inclined to put it in S, man, which sounds weird as a competitive Smash player, but not as it wouldn't be S as a Smash controller. There's probably some input latency in that regard too, but as a general controller, I think the Wii U Gamepad is actually a great controller. Next up, I'm certainly familiar with GameCube controllers. I go through them very often. And that being said, they're not super durable, especially when you're playing Melee. They are reasonably ergonomic, not super ergonomic. The Wii U Gamepad would be more ergonomic. They're sure as hell better than Joy-Cons, I'll tell you that much. So, yeah, GameCube controllers have their issues. Durability, not the most ergonomic. I mean, that's why a lot of people switch to Z-Jump. It's a more ergonomic way to be jumping in Melee than to use Y, so people will switch those buttons with their fobs. And yeah, I mean, well, it's not a bad controller, you know? I mean, I use these primarily for every Smash game. I compete in every Smash game, more or less, because we run them all in my region, more or less. So I use them for every Smash game, except N64, of course, which is coming up next. So they've done me well. I just wear through them quickly. Always use first party, though. Third party GameCube controllers are trash. If you're playing seriously, that is. You know, if you're playing competitively. Different GameCube controllers have slightly different angles on the cardinal notches. I don't know how to articulate that very well to non-Melee players, or even Melee players. Melee is very much a game of angles, but I won't go too in-depth on the GameCube controller. I mean, I'm certainly familiar with it. I'll put it in probably A. It has its flaws. I mean, it is my controller of choice. I use a Circle Gate, by the way. As you can see, no notches here. It's a modified controller. The faceplate is where the mod is. It's just no notches there for freedom of angles. So, but in general, you know, I don't want to ramble too much on the GameCube controller. I'll put it in A. Forgive me if I'm not very articulate or succinct with my ranking here, because I'm sleep deprived. So now, here's a fun one. The N64 controller. I grew up on this. This is one of the worst controllers ever made. I think it's generally agreed that the N64 controller is a pretty fucking bad controller. It is a bit of a monstrosity. I mean, it's not ergonomic with the 3 prongs. If you're using it for, well, most games you're gonna be holding the middle prong and the right prong. The only time I have held left and right using the D-pad and then the buttons on the right are for when I have Pokemon Red. When I had Pokemon Red hooked up to Pokemon Stadium on the N64, I had this sort of expansion pack. I don't know what you would call it, or transfer pack, I think, where you could play the Game Boy cartridge on Pokemon Stadium. It was pretty cool. So for that, you use the D-pad as if it was a Game Boy. But for the vast majority of N64 games, you're going to be using the analog stick, and you kind of have to hold the controller at a slight angle when you're using the middle and the right prong. I guess we can call them prongs. I don't know how else to put it right now, but you have to hold the controller kind of at an angle, which carries over to how I hold a GameCube controller, which fucks me up in Melee sometimes. The sticks suck. The sticks are bad. The original factory sticks. I think a lot of competitive Smash 64 players, serious ones at least, have different sticks put in. the original factory sticks are pretty bad. Um, they don't even sit center. They they don't they don't. How would I put it? They're not smooth in terms of how they move. Like they're clunky. If you used an N64 controller with an original factory stick, you would know what I mean, man. My millennials know what those feel like. The only time that stick actually is good, in my experience, is F-Zero X, because it helps with fine searing, and you don't want to spin out in that game. It's easy to spin out in that game, unlike GX. Anyway, so this is a bad controller. I would still put it above Joy-Cons. I think Joy-Cons are fucking atrocious. But this is definitely a bottom tier controller. The Dreamcast Controller. I'm familiar with this controller because I used it for Sonic Adventure 2 for the Dreamcast, which was the console that Sonic Adventure 2 was originally released on. I used to compete in Sonic Adventure 2, and a lot of you are probably familiar with Pumpkin Hill. I had the world record score on Mission 1, the normal, find the 3 pieces of the Master Emerald. I had the world record score on that stage, believe it or not. It's on my channel. Again, had, past tense. I think Chain Chumper broke it, or Chain Chump, I think he changed his tag to. Crazy good individual level player in that game. Probably the best in the world, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, so, so I played Sonic Adventure 2 primarily on GameCube, but I played it on Dreamcast specifically for getting the world record on Pumpkin Hill. I had the GameCube world record, but I wanted the all-console world record, and for that, you basically have to play it on Dreamcast, because on Dreamcast, there is, for those of you who know Sonic Adventure 2, Pumpkin Hill only has the 1,000-point gold beetle on Dreamcast. That's not on any other console, and you basically need that gold beetle if you want to get a world record score. There's no way of getting around that, so I had to play it on Dreamcast and get used to that controller for it. For Sonic Adventure 2, at least, which is the only game I really used the Dreamcast controller for, that I remember at least, I might have used it for 1 or 2 other games, just dabbling, but it doesn't feel good for Sonic Adventure 2. Maybe that's because I played a lot of Sonic Adventure 2 casually and competitively on a GameCube controller, and the juxtaposition was just, if you will, was jarring. But the Dreamcast controller doesn't really feel good. I would put it in B. I wouldn't put it as a bottom tier controller. It's not terrible, but it's not a very good one. And to wrap it up, the Wii Remote and/or Nunchuck here. Nintendo Wii came out in 2006. I'm very familiar with this console. I don't know if I would say I grew up on it. I was getting older at that point, but no, I was still a kid. This is back in 2006, so I was I was a kid. I was like 11 when this came out. I was born in 95. So yeah, I kind of grew up on this. And I've used this controller a lot. In fact, when I played Brawl casually, I actually played with the sideways Wii Remote as my primary way of playing, which is far from optimal. I should have been using the GameCube controller, but I've used the Wii Remote for all kinds of different Wii games, man. All kinds of different Wii games, and it's a good controller, honestly, especially paired with the Nunchuck. It's very versatile. The motion controls can be a lot of fun. The Nunchuck actually has motion controls too. It's not just the Wii Remote. For those of you who don't know, WarioWare Smooth Moves was a blast with these controllers. One of my favorite games of all time. I'd be rather surprised if any of you guys know this one, but Blazing Angels Squadrons of World War II. I played that with Wii Remote and Nunchuck for the motion controls. Like you're actually flying the planes in World War II. It's the gameplay with the motion controls, as well as the story and everything about that game is awesome. But we're talking controllers here, so I've never really had a bad time with the Wii Remote and or Nunchuck. I mean, it's always done me good. They're fairly durable. Yeah. Okay, so the only thing about them is batteries. You do have to replace the batteries once in a while. They get drained, I think, fairly quickly. I mean, it's not terribly fast, but that's the only real caveat about the Wii Remote is you gotta replace the batteries. It takes 2 AA's, so I think that would be the only thing keeping it out of S tier for me. But I would put it above the GameCube controller, all things considered. Is it very good for Smash? Not really. But in general, I would put this top of A. So that's my take. Yeah, again, I'm not familiar enough with the majority of these controllers to have a fair opinion on. But those 6 controllers, I think I do have a pretty reasonable take on. So, yeah, that's it.